Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into the recent flurry of activity around China's 618 shopping festival. We've got a stack of sources here, insights from Global Times, South China Morning Post, Post and Parcel, and also JD.com's own corporate blogs.
Exactly. And these aren't just, quick hits. They're pretty detailed on strategy, market dynamics, even early performance numbers. Our goal here is to really cut through all that noise and pull out what matters most for you, especially if you're maybe a product manager in the home appliance industry or just generally interested in that space.
Yeah, think of this as your essential shortcut, understanding one of the world's biggest retail events and what it means for your world right now.
So let's jump right in. Looking at these sources, they all obviously point to this massive event, 618. For anyone less familiar, what exactly is it, and what did the sources highlight about this year that makes it stand out?
Okay, so 618 is basically China's second biggest online shopping festival. Number two after Singles Day in November. It was actually started by JD.com way back in 2004, kind of as an anniversary celebration for them. Right. But the sources we looked at, like that Global Times piece, they really make a point about this year feeling different right from the get-go. I noticed mentions of it starting much, much earlier than usual.
Yes, that's a really key difference highlighted across the board. The sources show the whole promotion period kicked off earlier. We saw prelude events around mid-May. Specific dates like May 14th or maybe the 20th, depending on the platform, leading into the official launch, which was around May 30th or 31st.
And why the early start? Is it significant? What do the sources suggest?
Well, the Global Times piece specifically suggests this earlier timing reflects confidence in consumer purchasing power. And it's also very clearly linked to China's bigger national initiatives aimed at boosting consumption. Lots of platforms are tying into that.
Okay, so confidence, national policy alignment.
Hmm.
Interesting. And the South China Morning Post article, it really painted a picture of intense competition, between the big players, Alibaba with Tmall and Taobao, JD.com, and Douyin from ByteDance. It sounds like a full-on price war.
Oh, it definitely describes a fierce competitive landscape. Absolutely. But maybe what's more insightful from digging into these sources isn't just that they're competing, but how they're trying to win consumers over this year.
Right, that's the crucial part, isn't it? Beyond just starting early, what specific strategies did the sources detail? I saw mentions of simplifying discounts, for instance.
Absolutely. That's a huge one. A big piece of feedback platforms got before was that discount rules were just way too complicated. So this year, the sources indicate a really strong move towards simplification. Two, for example, they're offering more direct benefits, clearer structures like 50 yuan off for every 300 spend, or just a flat 15% official discount on some things.
That definitely sounds like a direct response to, consumer frustration.
Makes sense. And the sheer scale of the incentive based on these sources, it's kind of mind-boggling. It really is. Trauma was reportedly letting consumers gather coupons, potentially worth up to, 12,927 yuan per person. And Douyin wasn't holding back either. They announced 10 billion yuan worth of coupons and subsidies they were putting out there. It's a massive push on value.
But it's not just about slashing prices and coupons, is it? The sources also highlight this significant alignment with China's national trade-in program. This seems particularly relevant for industries like, home appliances.
This is such a critical point, especially for anyone listening who works in home appliances.
Yeah.
Absolutely. China's got this expansive trade-in policy. It's a major government push to get people to upgrade old stuff, stimulate consumption. And the MOFCOM data cited in the Global Times article is pretty telling. As of late April 2025, over 120 million consumers had already received subsidies through this program. And it drove sales of over 720 billion yuan.
Wow, okay, over 720 billion yuan in sales just linked to trade-ins, and that was only by late April. That's significant.
And the sources even break down the types of products being traded in. 36.61 million phones and digital gadgets, and 37.12 million units of home decor, kitchen items, bathroom stuff. Plus, JD.com's own blogs explicitly state their plan is to really capitalize on these trade-in programs during 618. So for anyone in home appliances, that's a huge government-backed demand driver you absolutely need to be aware of.
That's a very clear signal, yeah. Another dynamic that sources mention is the spotlight on export to domestic goods. It sounds like issues in foreign trade, maybe things like the U.S. tariffs mentioned elsewhere. Products originally made for export are now popping up in the domestic festival.
That's right. The sources frame this as both an opportunity for consumers and support for businesses facing that turbulence. JD.com had already announced plans to buy like 200 billion yuan worth of these goods over the next year. 618 is a key channel for that. Douyin also has a similar support program. They actually reported early sales of 360 million yuan in just 17 days for brands in that program. So it means potentially new product types or maybe a higher spec versions originally for export are now available domestically via the festival.
Okay, now this next point, especially looking at the JD.com sources, seems really significant. It feels like they're consciously trying to evolve beyond just competing on price, quality, service.
Yeah.
There's this clear push towards like emotional value and integrating content.
This is where it gets really interesting in terms of how platforms are engaging consumers beyond just the transaction itself. JD.com's approach this year, they're calling it 2+6 gameplay. That breaks down into two big theme concerts or galas, and then six distinct surprise days.
And these surprise days, they aren't based on product categories like usual, are they? The sources describe them as focused on user interest circles.
Exactly. That's the shift. They're targeting enthusiast circles, gourmet circles, home-loving circles, and using celebrity ambassadors and IP collaborations like a popular actor for the Gourmet Day or classic cartoon characters for Children's Day to resonate with those specific groups. The whole idea is making shopping feel more like an entertaining event tailored to your passions, not just scrolling through a catalog.
The examples from the sources were fascinating too, auctioning off a rare pen or even a prize watermelon king starting at just 1 yuan. It sounds like injecting fun and spectacle.
Totally. It's about shifting from just, buy and leave, purely transactional, towards building an emotional connection and providing entertainment value. The sources note this reflects changing consumer habits, especially among younger shoppers who value self-pleasure and the whole experience. Platforms need to be, as one source put it, more gentle and caring.
And part of that, it seems, involves bringing back the big galas. After scaling back last year, the sources mentioned JD.com is trying two major galas again for 618.
Yes, they're giving the gala format another go. Events like a summer concert and a happy night. And the strategy described in the sources is interesting, featuring performers and content designed to appeal across generations, evoke shared memories, creating resonance beyond just a direct sales pitch. It's about large-scale engagement, maybe even integrating concert tickets into promotions.
So beyond these online platform strategies, the sources also really detailed how JD.com's self-operated model enables quite a bit of online-offline integration and new ways to play during the festival.
Yeah, this is a key differentiator for JD. Their own logistics and retail network lets them blend online and physical seamlessly. One creative example mentioned was integrating with JD Takeout. Like you could order food and randomly win a phone or buy something online and get a big takeout coupon. It directly links everyday activities like getting food delivered into the festival itself.
And then there's the whole concept of the physical JD malls. The Beijing Mall, for instance, was highlighted as the largest national subsidy experience store, specifically for integrated home appliances, home furnishings, and 3C products. That seems highly relevant.
That detail from the sources is definitely key for anyone in home appliances. These malls aren't just showrooms. They're designed as these immersive experience centers, full category coverage, scene-based services. They host themed events, integrate services like decoration, housekeeping. They even mention an upcoming 7 Fresh gourmet mall in Harbin, connecting high-quality dine-in plus high-quality takeout. It's all about creating this comprehensive lifestyle ecosystem, anchored by their platform, encouraging spending across categories.
Okay, so with all these strategies deployed the early start, simpler discounts, huge coupons, the trade-in link, export goods, emotional engagement, galas, O2O integration, how did things actually perform? What do the sources say about the early days as of late May 2025?
Well, the initial numbers reported are very strong, pretty much across the board. JD.com reported that in just the first hour after their main promotion launched on May 30th, their GMV, total orders, and active shoppers all grew over 200% compared to last year. And across the platform, something like 20,000 brands saw their GMV grow more than threefold just in that first hour.
Okay, impressive start. But this is where I'm really curious about the home appliance and electronics angle. The sources specifically called out significant performance there, right?
They did, and the numbers are pretty striking for this category, really jump out. GMV, specifically in home appliances and electronics, surged over 380% year over year in that first hour,
Wow.
which indicates just a massive early burst of consumer spending focused right in this area.
Over 380% growth,
Yeah.
first hour. Home appliances and electronics. That is huge. The sources also listed some specific brands that hit big milestones very early on.
Yeah. Within that first hour, several major brands quickly blew past the RMB 100 million mark in GMV. The sources specifically named Apple, Xiaomi, Midea, Huawei, and Hair. So key players covering both electronics and major home appliances.
So not just overall category growth, but specific big names seeing massive early success within that segment.
Exactly. And digging a bit deeper into the numbers cited, trending electronics products, over 10,000 specific products saw more than tenfold GMV growth. And for home appliance and home living brands, over 500 of them also saw their GMV grow more than tenfold year over year. So these figures highlight not just category strength, but real consumer uptake for newer or trending products and brands, specifically in the home space.
The sources mentioned other categories did well too, sure, like daily essentials, cross-border sales, but those home appliance and electronics numbers definitely stand out. Now, powering this kind of scale and speed requires some serious back-end infrastructure. The sources touched on tech and logistics too.
Oh, absolutely. That seamless experience consumers expect, especially during a massive peak like 618, it completely depends on advanced tech and logistics. JD Cloud is mentioned as the backbone, powering everything. And the sources noted surging usage of its large language model development platform, JoyBuild, during the festival prep.
Right, and they also said AI is integrated throughout. And they're even offering AI-powered marketing tools free to third-party merchants, according to their blogs.
Yeah, leveraging AI for efficiency and also to support the sellers on their platform, that's key. But especially for large items like home appliances, JD Logistics is arguably the most critical piece. You need to get those bulky items delivered reliably. The sources highlight they deployed their largest ever rollout of advanced intelligent tech across their network. We're talking over 400 cities.
Things like goods-to-person robots, autonomous vehicles, smart sorting systems, all designed to ensure that fast, accurate delivery, which is a huge part of the JD promise.
Exactly. That logistics capability, especially for bulky goods, is really positioned in the sources as a core competitive advantage for them.
Okay, finally, let's look at the global reach aspect that was mentioned.
Yeah.
It seems 618 isn't just staying within China's borders anymore.
No, definitely not. JD Global Sales explicitly launched a 618 Global Shopping Festival aimed at overseas Chinese customers. The sources mentioned they're offering over 10 million curated products, importantly, at domestic China prices.
And they've expanded free cross-border shipping quite a bit too, haven't they? I think it was 17 countries and regions now, including places like Canada, the UK, the US, alongside closer markets like Singapore and Australia.
That's a big expansion, yeah. And the sources indicate the early international demand is strong. Cross-border orders overall saw significant growth. And crucially for our audience, JD.com's own sources specifically noted a 200% growth in home appliance purchases during a May sales event targeting these international customers. So it shows there's definitely an appetite for this category globally, accessible via their platform.
They also talked about this interesting program, the Overseas Warehouse Semi-Managed Program in key global markets. What exactly does that entail?
So the sources explain this program lets international merchants who already have inventory stored locally in warehouses in key markets like the US or Europe supply third-party sellers on JD's platform. The benefit for overseas customers is, well, wider product diversity, much faster local delivery since the product's already in country, and better localized support, which is super important for delivering and servicing large items, like many home appliances.
Okay, so pulling all this information together from the sources, the early start, the simpler discounts, the national trade-ins boost, those export goods showing up, the emotional strategies, the O2O integration, the strong early performance, especially in home appliances, plus the tech and logistics backbone and this expanding global reach. What does it all mean when we try to look at the bigger picture here?
Well, I think these sources consistently position 618 as much more than just a summer sale event. It really serves as a vital window into the resilience and also the potential of China's massive consumption market. And it acts as a key barometer for tracking new consumption trends as they actually emerge in real time.
Right, and it's not just about online retail in isolation, is it? These huge events stimulate real economic activity across the whole supply chain, from production to manufacturing through logistics, marketing, all the way to final sales.
And specifically for product managers listening in, particularly in the home appliance sector, the sources offer several really critical insights, I think. First, the strong performance numbers signal clear consumer demand, which is amplified by national policies like that trade-in program. That's huge. But maybe even more telling are the strategic shifts. Platforms are clearly moving beyond just pure price wars. They're integrating content, trying to build emotional connections, seamlessly blending online convenience with offline experiences. They're using technology not just for speed, but for customer engagement and seller support. And they're building out the infrastructure for global reach.
Yeah, these strategies aren't just about this one festival, right? They really represent these evolving trends in how consumers are reached and how goods are sold in China. And increasingly, it seems, potentially around the world too. So reflecting on everything we've unpacked from these sources about the 618 festival, the massive consumer engagement, that blend of discounts and national policy support, the tech powering it, the new ways platforms are trying to connect, and that clear, strong focus on categories like home appliances and electronics, what really stands out most to you? And as you digest all this, here's maybe the key question raised by these sources to think about. How might this increasing integration of online content, interest-based targeting, offline experience stores, and national policies like trade-ins, how might that fundamentally change the product requirements and the go-to-market strategies that you develop for home appliances in the